Good morning. The Chief Executive will first say a few words and then the floor will be open for questions. And please limit yourselves to 2 questions. Chief Executive, good morning. For the past 2 weeks, Hong Kong has been full of energy and vibrancy. As you know, last week, we held the Global Financial Leaders Investment Summit with a resounding success. Over 200 participants joined, and they were from 120 institutions. Most of them are chief executive officers or presidents of their respective organizations. And I'm grateful as a number of bankers commented as follows. Hong Kong is the star as we can build an asset management business in the mainland, and definitely we are an international financial center on the global stage. I feel encouraged as they acknowledge our status as an international financial center. And as you all know, over the weekend, between Friday and Sunday, we again successfully held the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens with over 65,000 attendances. And the Hong Kong Sevens was broadcast all over the world. So it shows that Hong Kong is full of energy. And as you know, this week, we are also holding the Hong Kong Legal Week 2022. It's a 5-day event that started yesterday. We invited over 20 international legal academics and elites from around the world, and we also have 8,000 participants to our various events in the Legal Week. We have a very positive status in the international legal stage, and we are also a successful arbitration center. So we feel encouraged to have this opportunity to exchange views with the legal elites. As for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they've also signed an instrument with the International Organization for Mediation Preparatory Office. This is an acknowledgement of Hong Kong's international status because of the premier location of Hong Kong and because of the favorable business environment in Hong Kong. It also shows that Hong Kong is a place with the rule of law. It also further bolsters Hong Kong's status as an international arbitration center. It also demonstrates how Hong Kong can further its success on the global stage. We also have the Asia Healthcare Summit to be held this Thursday and Friday in Hong Kong. Again, we have invited government officials, investors, and practitioners in the healthcare industry participating in the event, and they will be exchanging views on the development of the sector as well. So in terms of fighting the epidemic, without compromising our control of risk, we are going to devise targeted measures to ensure the smooth conduct of major and international events. In light of this policy, we announced yesterday the consensus reached with the travel industry. In other words, we are going to impose some sort of a closed-loop arrangement for inbound tour group travelers. Licensed travel agents, under these specific arrangements, will be in charge of the management of this measure. In other words, licensed tourist guides will help inbound tour group travelers enter theme parks and designated catering premises with an amber code and a vaccine pass. We seek to impose various measures and formulate plans so as to encourage more activities. In fact, we have epidemic control measures for both incoming travelers and for the local community. We have the 0+3 quarantine arrangements for inbound travelers. As I said, we have also introduced specific arrangements. And locally, we try to relax as many social distancing measures as we can. For example, as you know, in catering premises, we now allow 12 people per table instead of 8, and we also allow restaurants to run around the clock, and we also allow live performances to take place in the premises. And these measures will be subject to review in light of the actual situation, as I set out very clearly in the policy address, and as I've stressed a number of times. We'd like to take an orderly approach to gradually relax anti-epidemic measures without compromising epidemic risk control, so that we can revive social and economic activities. In terms of travel figures, in November, on average, at the airport, the travel figures increased by 2.16 times compared to the same figure in September. For inbound travelers, it's 2.26 times. And for non-locals coming to Hong Kong, comparing to the introduction of 0+3 in September, the figure increased by 3.5 times. So you see the numbers continue to increase, and we will have regard to the actual situation. And these figures, in conducting continuous review and fine-tuning our anti-epidemic strategies. The floor is open. If you're interested, please use the mic to speak when your name is called, and please first introduce the media outlet you represent, and please limit yourself to just 2 questions. This male reporter. I'm from TMHK. Good morning, Chief Executive. The government just announced specific arrangements for inbound tour group travelers. What about travelers under the individual travel visit scheme? It's not included. Now, they are all travelers. Why is it different? And you also talk about gradual relaxation of social distancing measures. When will the measure be relaxed for individual travelers? For healthcare manpower, the Health Bureau is exploring the option of mandating healthcare officials or healthcare staff to work in the public hospitals for a certain period of time. And the former financial secretary commented that this is, in fact, a push factor and is gilding the lily, and it will drive the personnel away. And what is your take on it? We consider a number of factors when we formulate a plan. We need to take a gradual and orderly approach, and definitely there has to be priority. In other words, we need to consider the overall interest to our society, and we try to maximize the interest with minimal cost. So for the specific arrangement for inbound tour group travelers, we have taken into account the need of the travel industry and our community. That's how we have accorded priority. And we also need to take gradual steps so that the measure can be implemented in a gradual and orderly manner. Otherwise, it will result in chaos, and we will conduct a review in light of the actual operation. So we are going to decide our way forward on the basis of the actual situation. Having said that, for all the measures targeting either inbound travelers or the local community, again, we need to have regard the epidemic risk and accord priorities accordingly. That is to achieve maximum efficiency and gain with the lowest cost. And that's how we accord priorities. And I believe, as far as the numbers are concerned, having reviewed the numbers on a regular basis, we're going to roll out new measures. Now, indeed, we face a manpower crunch in the healthcare sector, at least in the near future. In order to tackle this issue, we must increase manpower supply. We have limited training places for healthcare staff in the local community, and that's the bottleneck. Now, apart from people dedicated to the healthcare profession, we must also be accountable to the public, because after all, we are using public resources and they're responsible for serving the public. So for the public healthcare system, the government must try to tackle issues to provide quality healthcare services to the public. In the process, we will discuss with the profession. But I firmly believe that healthcare professions are devoted to their work and devoted to serving the public. And I think they will give comprehensive consideration to the whole matter, and I believe that they love Hong Kong and they would like to serve Hong Kong people. And for details, I'll defer to the Health Bureau to discuss with the profession to chart the way forward.
John.
Next question, please. The gentleman in the front.
South China Morning Post. So the government is allowing two groups to visit theme parks and museums. But does it mean that there won't be 0+0 in the near future? The government seems to be more lenient to Rugby 7 spectators than ordinary citizens. Outside the Hong Kong Stadium, is there also room for us to remove our masks in more occasions, or would the government consider abolishing the yellow health code altogether? My second question is on press freedom. So journalist Choi Ling lost her appeal on car plate checks yesterday. Does the government has any legislative plans to review the official information checking procedures to support press freedom and investigative journalism in Hong Kong?
Well, first of all, I have explained time and again that in our prevention of the COVID attack, then we will be regularly reviewing the data and see how we will roll out our measures. My policy has been clear that while we can balance the risks against economic and social needs, we will try to have special plans to allow activities to proceed with what we consider acceptable restrictions. And it is under this principle that the Rugby Sevens was conducted, which was a very successful event. And I think the international world has seen that Hong Kong has come back to the center stage for international activities. The principle that I have mentioned, I want to repeat again, is for activities, particularly large scale with economic elements and also international events, then we will, while controlling the risk, allow it to happen with specific plans. And it is under this principle. We will, of course, review what we have done in the different activities that we have make special arrangements to allow it to happen, look at the data and see how we will be taking measures in the future. What is important is under 0+3. Already a lot of activities have been taking place. At the present moment, I think 0+3 has served the purpose of Hong Kong to the acceptable and anticipated extent, allowing a lot of activities to happen. And I've also indicated that the statistics indicating arrivals and departure at the airport is positive. There are more and more people coming to Hong Kong from overseas, besides Hong Kong residents going out for tourist visit. So the activities are all coming back, and it will take time because, for example, the airline capacity has to be built up. So we are doing all these with the very stated, a very clear principle, is to do it progressively, orderly, under control, so that there will not be chaos and there will not be unexpected happenings, and we can progress in the same direction smoothly. At the same time, the activities that are allowed in Hong Kong are given more freedom and more relaxation. As you can see that many social distancing measures have been relaxed, including restaurants now being allowed to run without any control on opening hours, and also performers are allowed to take place. And slowly, as we can control the risk, there will be further measures that we will consider to allow more activities to take place without restriction. That principle has been made very clear. The two groups special plan is also an example that we will be making special arrangements while we can control the risk. As we go through more and more in such activities, we can, of course, review the experience and then look at the data so that we can have more measures designed so as to allow activities to proceed with the maximum of freedom. As regard, and you also asked about masks. Masks will stay on because I think all experts have indicated masks is important to control the spread of the disease. After all, we have to be conscious of some of the uncertainties of COVID. First of all, we know every now and then there will be variants, and we also know that with winter coming, the attack of the flu will add to the risk of COVID. And from our experience, from wave 4 to wave 5, we know that the safety factor that we put in the first 4 waves cannot cope with the speedy spread of Omicron in wave 5. So this safety factor is something that I must consider. And I really wish the public to know that while we look at the data, we also have to look at what safety factor we have to build in the overall strategy to protect against COVID's attack. And that is why I must do it orderly, progressively, so that we will be able to control the risk. The second question about press freedom. Press freedom is, as I have mentioned many times, in the pocket of the people of Hong Kong. It is enshrined and protected in the basic law. What is important is, no matter what profession you are in, you must go about your duties in accordance with the law. You cannot go beyond the law, and nobody is above the law. And provided it is within the confines of the law, press freedom is fully protected in Hong Kong, in the same way as you are doing your business every day.
下一位提問。
Next question, please. The reporter in the front. Good morning, Chief Executive. I'm from TVB. Now, those with an amber code can roam freely in community. In the future, they can also enter theme parks with the group in, group out mechanism. So would you consider removing the amber code mechanism at all? And the measures, relaxation of the measures are mostly for overseas tourists. What about border resumption with the mainland?
We're not going to scrap the amber code system because for the red code and the amber code, it is a means for us to control risk. Otherwise, it would be difficult to impose risk control. And of course, risk assessment will have to be conducted for the activities to be held. And even with the control measures, we still had the daily caseload from 4,000 to 6,000. We also recorded 18 deaths very recently. So we are still in midst of risks. We must be vigilant. However, we must also allow maximum room for activities whilst imposing risk control. And that's my policy. The Amber Code system could allow us to control risk, and we also devise various plans to manage the risks. And that is why we have agreed with the travel industry to impose a specific arrangements for inbound tour group travelers. We'll consolidate experience, and in the future, we'll also keep in view changes in statistics and continue to impose risk control measures. We have 0+3 for arrivals. And as far as the local community is concerned, we strive to create maximum room for economic activities. As I mentioned just now, we're gradually relaxing social distancing measures without compromising our fight against the epidemic. As for resuming quarantine-free travel with the mainland, we are actively discussing with the relevant counterparts in the mainland. The mainland, meanwhile, also imposes risk control measures, and I must say that we have not relaxed our effort. Last question. On the right-hand side, first row. Chief Executive from ... News. Can you tell us more about specific arrangements which will allow inbound tour group travelers to enter designated catering premises, and where will these premises be in the territory? And we are also concerned about discussions with the mainland. Details of the specific arrangements for inbound tour group travelers will be ironed out upon discussion between the Bureau and the travel industry. That is the CSTB. And meanwhile, we also formulate specific plans. In other words, for licensed travel agents, they can arrange for licensed tour guides to manage the tour group. And because of this management measure, the travelers will be bound by our various measures. Otherwise, the risk will be much greater. So having assessed the risk, we have formulated the specific arrangements. As for catering premises, they will be subject to certain conditions. Details will be ironed out by the Health Bureau and the CSTB, the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau. My policy is clear. We should allow as many activities as possible without compromising epidemic risk control. So they'll be required to follow our measures. About reopening our boundary with the mainland, discussions are still ongoing. It is also important for the mainland to impose the epidemic measures. So without introducing additional risks to the mainland's fight against the epidemic, we'll continue to engage in discussions with the counterparts. Thank you.